How's it going, guys? So I have here two of the brand new Foxeer Legend 4K Scopecams, and shown on the box here are the black versions, but I went for the camo versions because when I saw the camo version on the website, I thought, yeah, they look great, they do, and it will save me having to paint them. But when they arrived, this is what I got. Ta-da! Yeah, I'm not too sure what camo pattern this is or where you're going to blend in. Yeah, pretty dodgy, and not only is it a bit of a dodgy paint scheme, they're also quite shiny as well. Kind of makes me wish I went for the black option now. Now I have been told that they have removed these from their website, so you cannot buy this colour anymore, which leads me to believe that these may be a collector's item now, but I highly doubt it. So apart from the paint job, I'm actually quite impressed by the build quality of these cameras. They are all metal in construction. I think it's aluminium. One of the big upsides to this is the rails are metal. It actually reminds me of the very first Runcam Scopecam. Similar sort of feel to it, similar sort of build quality. I would have liked to have seen like a quick release lever so you can quickly put them on, take them off, or even maybe just like a thumb screw tightener. Having this, it's not a big deal, but you know, a quick release would have been nice. Yeah, so the rail mount is all metal now. It's not going to break and snap on you, I don't think anyway. Famous last words. We do have sacrificial lens protection here, so it's not BB proof, but it will protect your lens from getting smashed. The camera has 20mm Picatinny rails either side. Now I'm not sure this is an essential thing. It's not something I thought to myself, I really could do with Picatinny rails on my new Scopecam. I guess one thing you could use them for is maybe somehow mounting a power bank on the side maybe, or even a selfie cam somehow. Maybe mounting a selfie cam on your Scopecam if you want to. Finally, we now have a Scopecam with a USB-C port on. This is the first Scopecam that I know of with a USB-C port. Still have this, I think it's like some sort of HDMI out or something or other. I guess it's kind of like a leftover thing from FPV cameras. We don't really need this on Scopecams, do we? I mean, leave a comment below if you still use this, but I don't know anyone that uses this for FPV or anything like that, or playback or whatever. Another thing I really like, is the door. The door stays fixed. The times with my Runcam lights, even my old Runcam 1 as well, the door just comes off, and if you take it, I've lost this several times now. Luckily I've found it each time, but very easy to you know, shit, there it goes. You see what I mean? So yeah, this hinge door is a very welcome addition. The battery in there is a lithium ion 3.7 volts, and it's 1000 mAh as well, so don't know how long that's going to last. We'll do a test in a bit to see how long that battery will last for on the various useful settings that we may be using. Maximum recommended card to use is 128 megabytes, and one thing that I have noticed already in the very few times that I have inserted a memory card into it is very easy, if you're not looking properly, I don't know if you can see there, to insert your memory card but not actually insert it. Yeah, you can actually, if you're not careful, you can push that right down there, and it is a real pain in the ass to remove it, because if I do that in a game, it's going to really piss me off. So when you're putting it in, just make sure you get it in the right hole. There we go, it's in. You can feel it click in. The two versions I have here, one is a 35mm. This one here is a 25mm. I'm going to show you some footage in a little while of the zoom differences that you get between these two different lenses, so you'll have to pick which one you want yourself. Now I would use my 35mm for a bolt action sniper rifle, and I would use this 25mm for like an AEG, or maybe like my MTW or something, DMR maybe. I would say that the 25mm is probably best for engagements between 15 meters and 50 meters, and the 35mm is pretty good for engagements between 25 meters up to maybe 80 meters. Here we've got some footage from both cameras, the 25mm and the 35mm, both at the maximum resolution of 4K 30 frames per second. I start off at approximately 60 metres away. Now I'm roughly 50. Now about 40. And as you can see in the 35mm lens, when I get up to around about 20 metres I start to go out of focus a bit. In this clip I'm switching between the two lenses, and you can see with the 25mm lens there's the advantage of having a wider field of view. So both my cameras came and I wasn't entirely happy with the way they were focused, so I'd done a little bit of work on them myself and focused them in myself. All it meant was connecting to the app on my phone and maximising the display on my phone so I could get a very good view, and pointing these cameras at like a number plate or maybe a sign with writing on, and just loosening this piece here, just loosening it, just turning the lens carefully until it was focused in properly and nice and sharp on the text. That's the best way that I've found to focus in a lens. And then when you've done, just carefully make sure you don't move the lens again, carefully tighten this back up again. Now I'm not a massive fan of this sacrificial Gorilla Glass in there. I know it will protect your lens from getting smashed, and these lenses are not cheap to replace, but I do think it affects the footage a little bit. If you're pointing it in the general direction of the sun area, you will get glare coming from this glass, and also when it rains you will get water droplets easily that will sit on this lens here. To replace this lens is going to be quite expensive, so I can understand people not wanting to remove this sacrificial glass off there. It's going to be a lot cheaper to replace the glass than it is the lens, but like I say, you may get that glare when you point your camera into the sun. Now, talking of weather, Foxeer have not reported these are waterproof, water resistant or anything, but I would imagine they are fairly weatherproof because there's no obvious holes on top of this at all. The buttons are all sealed. I don't know if you can see that, they're all sealed there, so there's going to be no water going in there where those buttons are. The only holes are where the USB-C port is and where this port here, whatever it's called, is. The battery door isn't sealed. I would imagine it will survive a little bit of a rain shower maybe. I wouldn't want to take it out in torrential rain or drop it in a puddle or a river or anything. So just be warned that they're probably weatherproof but not water resistant. This is a sound test to test the sound on the Foxeer Legend Scopecam. I'm recording with my iPhone 11, and I'm going to switch between the audio on the iPhone 11 and the Foxeer Scopecam. Not entirely sure where the microphone is on these Foxeers. It's not actually visible. Whether it's an internal mic, I don't know. So it's just going to be a sound comparison so you can hear the difference in the sound. There's quite a bit of sound going on around me. It's quite an industrial area with a bit of nature thrown in. You can probably hear some buzzing of generators in the background and maybe some birds tweeting as well. So it should be a good test. Here's a shooting test tracking BBs. Now with these, there is no obvious movement in the lens there at all, but I have heard reports of people when they're firing high-powered bolt-action rifles and even AEGs that they're getting some considerable shake on the footage. So that's what I'm going to test in a bit to to see if that's the case.
I've strapped the Foxeer to my Northridge SSG-10, a rifle that's definitely not known for its recoil. Let's see if we can replicate any of that reported vibration from the lens. The setting is on 2.5K 30 frames per second. With a 25mm lens, you can see the vibration ever so slightly, no different to any other Scopecam that I've used, so not really a big issue. And you can see when the footage is slowed down, the vibration lasts for about 5 frames. Doesn't sound a lot, but it's about 15 meters of BB travel. With the larger 35mm lens, it is slightly more noticeable. And with the footage slowed down, you can see that the vibration will last for about 10 frames. Now this is about 25 meters of BB travel. To try and counter this, I've attached some foam and tape around the lens. I'm hoping this will act in a similar way to how a barrel stabilizer works.
The Foxeer Legend Scopecam is capable of 4K at 30 frames per second. That's the maximum resolution with frames per second you're going to get. I would personally run these for Airsoft at the 2.7K 60 frames per second. 60 frames per second, so you get that BB tracking a lot better. You could even run these at 1080p 120 frames per second for that awesome slow motion sniper shot that you might do. Let's give them a battery time test, see how long they last for on a full charge. I'm going to run this one at 4K 30 frames per second, and I'm going to run this one at 2.7K 60 frames per second. We'll see how long they last for.
After almost 28 minutes, the camera recording 4K 30 frames per second stops recording. Now I'm not sure whether this is due to overheating issues or if the memory card is not of sufficient speed, but it's definitely not out of battery power. At 1 hour 16, an impressive 6 minutes after the stated battery lifetime, the Foxeer starts giving a low battery alarm. And 2 minutes later, at just over 1 hour 18 minutes record time, the camera recording 2.5K 60 frames per second runs out of battery power. This battery test was done at room temperature. It was actually a different story when I was using the Foxeer Scopecam at very low temperatures and managed just 35 minutes record time on 2.5K 60 frames per second. At the time of recording, there is no official app available at the moment for the iPhone. I had to get sent a link over to download a beta version, and actually the beta version is actually quite good. There is an app available for Android users from wherever you Android people get your apps from. But yeah, for the iPhone, this is the beta version. So let's launch it up. Power on the camera with a long press on the power button. And if your Wi-Fi doesn't come on automatically, it's a long press to turn the Wi-Fi on. Now I would recommend, if you're not planning on using your Wi-Fi, to turn it off, because it's gonna take away from the battery life on there. So I've already connected this camera to my phone. The password for it is 123456789 and let's just check that we are hooked up to the Wi-Fi. We're not. And there we go, you can see it showing there. Let's connect it. Go back to the app. Connect device. And there you can say we're connected already. Like really fast. For a beta version, it's actually quite good. So let's go into the settings there. And there you can see you can adjust your resolution and various other things like loop recording. These are some of the things that are left over from like dashcam firmware or whatever. I don't know. There's no reason why we need loop recording on a Scopecam that I can think of anyway. Date stamp. Why would you want to put the date on? So these are stuff that are left over from dashcams, FPV. I mean, you've got photo settings. Whoever used the Scopecam to take a photo, I don't know, but it doesn't matter anyway. But it's just some stuff on there that we're not even going to need. Whereas you've got EIS, which is like a stabilization thing. I would turn that off. I don't think we need stabilization on Scopecams. And crosshairs, nice little touch. If you don't want to or don't know how to add an overlay to your footage, you can turn on crosshair, and it is adjustable. So you can, on your footage, it will have like a little tiny crosshair on it, which is a nice little touch actually. Image flip, so you can, if you want to mount your camera underneath your gun, you can flip the image there. So yeah, there you go, that is the app, and probably by the time that I release this video, there may even be an official release of the app for the iPhone. I'm going to leave you now with some comparison footage comparing the Foxeer Scopecam to the Runcam Lite 4K Scopecam.